Let's see. It's booting, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading, and we are live. Let's see. The first time I tried to go live was with Mr. Brendan Storoki, but that was because the that our conversation, it kind of just, shout out to him for Avalon Comics. Like, we kind of just did the episode real quick, like, hurry up, let's do it. But this one, I planned it a little better, and I anticipated this, and I'm back again with my good brother Dasul Andrews. If you remember him in a previous episode, he's the founder of Mount Sinai Olive Oil. Well, the CEO of Mount Sinai Olive Oil.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, yeah. But now he's back talking about something I think that's very important to the community, and we need to know about this. And that is that is building a trust or forming a trust of some sort. And we talked on the back end a lot about this, and I said this gotta be an episode. This gotta be the episode. Like, this conversation needs to be had. This information needs to be shared, and I want to share it. So again, salute to my brother Dasul Andrews. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Kickback. You know, one of the original Kickback alumni. Um, this guy's a Swiss Army knife. You know what I'm saying? Retired New York firefighter, master barber, DJ. He owns an olive oil company, and he helps people build business trust or trust in general. And I want to share more game with the family. And you know, I only deal with Swiss Army knives or peacocks, and Dasul is definitely one of them. Um, Salute to you, my brother. How you doing today?
Salute, salute, Pastor. I'm good, good, man. I'm happy to be here once again on the Entrepreneur Kickback, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kick back, you know, talk it out, chop it up. There's a lot of information to unpack, and it's very important. You know,
Yeah,
it's that's definitely not an understatement. It's very important.
look, the seriousness of what we should pay attention to. At least know, even if you're not able to take these steps right now, know that you need to build yourself up to take these steps. And it's just having that right information. So it's two things I want to talk about as far as trust. Like, number one, why you should have one. Oh, I got my son. Why you should have one, and then how did you get into the business of helping people build trust? And first, I would like to, if you want to hear his backstory, go to the previous episode that Dasul was a part of. Just go on the feed. Everybody has a picture, and also, give me a follow, give me a like, give me a share as well. And we get his backstory on his why. But now I want to talk about his business as far as building trust and the importance of it. So I would like to start with, like, first and foremost, what is a trust?
Okay, so a trust is simply a contract. So um, it's a contract that there's a lot of legal provisions in this country specifically for these instruments. So that's what, in theory, what a trust is. I know a lot of people don't even know that, but it's plain and simple. It's a contract. It's a very powerful contract that allows you to fully maximize the guidelines that are set forth when it comes down to business, when it comes down to family matters, when it comes down to your individual desires. Um, so, where most people tend to have a primitive, limited knowledge when it comes down to what a will is, we many people grow up listening saying, "Oh, they never left a will or a will." They have a somewhat idea of what a will is, A trust is a will on steroids.
Mhm.
Okay, so a will is not a bad thing, but what a trust is, it just supersedes all the abilities or capabilities, rather, that a will just simply doesn't have. For one, when people have wills and they leave a will is subject to probate. So a will has to be read, it's subject to court. Wills can get challenged, the authenticity of it. So it's a very entry level document when it comes down to passing of assets and things you want to set, pass on to the next generation. I'm talking as an individual, or what you want to put into your will, whatever your possessions are, assets are. A will is like at the very least, it's like entry level. Like I said, if it's subject to probate, it's subject to court fees, it's subject to probate fees, it's subject to attorney fees, it's subject to being challenged. There's a lot of things that go into simply having a will. Don't get me wrong, it's better than not having nothing at all, but it's not the best form or the highest form of transferring assets, securing your assets, and things of that nature. So that's what I want, just to give a basic platform understanding. You have a will, and when you have a trust, and not just any trust, there's so many different variations of trust. But when you have a trust that's comprised of powerful provisions, um, it's a difference of night and day. It's like, I would say, like, if compare it to someone that's their first day in the gym, compared to what they look like, and where they starting point, and compared to somebody that's competing on a stage with bodybuilders. That's the difference between a will and a trust.
Mm.
It's like there's no comparison. Like, you just standing there looking at, you're like, man, I wish I could, like, just get on the flat bench and put up 350 20 times, and things like that. It's like, wow, I'm struggling with, 135 pounds. But,
Right.
just to put it in perspective, this is just to understand what it is. But at the end of the day, we're talking about estate planning. We're talking about tools that are essential and important for your life, and longevity, in the transfer of assets and things of that nature.
See, that's definitely interesting because a lot of times, especially when you're in the entrepreneurial space, we don't talk about like the, I would say, lack of a better word, boring stuff like insurance, um, trust, wills. We don't talk about that. It's a lot of times you hear content, and I'm not knocking it, but we hear the things that's sexy, like things that's selling, things that's making money,
Of
things that
course.
give you return. But we never talk about the things that I would say hedges you or gives you defense as far as your
Correct.
overall financial situation. So it's like when I hear things like trust and different types of insurance, it kind of intrigues me more now because a lot of that is missing in the conversation that's like out in social media or podcasts or whatever the case may be. So it's like now you say that you compared a brand new person in the gym to a professional bodybuilder between a will and a trust. That's that's astronomical if I'm thinking about that. Like the
Think about it.
importance.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like that's crazy. So I would like to know, like, well, first, what are the different types of trust? Like, because you said there were different types. So what are the different types, and what, and like, why would someone How can someone choose the right trust?
Well, like many things in life, things are dictated by what you can afford. That's first and foremost. So the most common trusts
Hi, son.
are the most common trusts are called revocable trusts, which are also known as living trusts. That's
Okay.
what the most common trusts are when you encounter people, especially I encounter people that say, "Oh, I have a trust set up." 9 out of 10 times, it's a living trust. So, what does that mean? That means that they have a living trust that they can put assets into, per se,
Sorry, y'all. My son
right?
was visiting y'all. Okay, go ahead.
Nah, he's trying to get this information. It's all
He
good.
is. He
It's
is.
all good. He know what's up.
Right.
So a living trust means the person's alive, they created this trust, and they moved assets into it. That's just for example. However, they're still connected to it. And what that means is if a situation arises and let's say there's a judgment against that particular person, because they still have a connection to it because it is a living trust and also known as a revocable trust, their assets that they have made try to, let's say, for lack of a better word, hide or move into the living trust could without a doubt be called into court. It can be called in to satisfy a judgment because it's still connected to that person as long as that person is living. That's why it's called a living trust. So that's why a lot of people may have that because for the most part, they're on more of the affordable side when it comes to the whole scale and spectrum of trust.
Okay.
As far as trust goes, there's probably at least 20 variations of it.
Mm.
So it's like there's so many different types of trust. There's a marriage trust, there's an asset only trust, there's charitable trust, there's revocable trust, irrevocable trust, spendthrift trust. Like all these different types of trust exist. So, it will behoove the individual to, do their due diligence and do some research on what it is. But for the most part, like I'm saying, the majority of people that I have encountered that may actually have a trust, they have what's known as a living trust. Now, a living trust becomes an irrevocable trust when that person dies,
Okay.
because now that person dies. Now, certain things they can't be changed.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Now, do you think about it?
So, yeah. So, but again, like I said, when you dig deep into the trust and the power of all these things, there's certain combinations and provisions of trust that when they are combined, it can be extremely powerful. So that's the difference. One trust, all trusts are not the same.
Okay.
All trusts are not the same. I will say that, and like anything else in life and goes across the board, if whatever it is you're looking at, whether you're looking, if I would say a living trust is looking at like the economy class seat on a 747. That's
Okay.
economy class. Now, when you want to deal with more specialized, uh, you know, customized trust, now you're moving into the business and the first class section. You know that there's a difference in price. Period. So that's how I want people to like kind of gauge what it is. That just goes. That's just business. That's just life. You can buy the base model Range Rover, or you can buy the autobiography. There's $100,000 difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You could buy a Rolex for 5, 6 grand, or you could pay 107. grand, depending on the model. What that's just how it is. It's still Rolex, but I bring up Rolex. Funny I brought that up, but Rolex. So the people that are listening can do their own research. Rolex as a company is not a publicly traded company. Is a company that never pays taxes because they don't have any income. All the money that the company makes, 100% of it gets moved into a charitable trust.
Mm.
So, and the company is evaluated at about $8 billion. And because of the laws of trust and the privacy, you really will never know who sits on that board and the way they distribute their money within their members and people that work for Rolex or whatever. But the way it's done in a way that the company itself, they don't they don't pay any taxes because
Mm.
they donate all their revenue into a charitable trust.
And it's a trust, obviously, that they control.
Yeah, their family, whoever, from the history of how Rolex was created and all that. I mean, it's a very. I read it. I read the book on it. Like it's just very interesting when you start looking at certain things. I mean, and they're pretty much a standard watch. Like I know they're not regarded as the top of the line, but it's pretty standard. Like Rolex is a staple. Like Mercedes Benz is a staple.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna say you got a Rolex, you doing bad.
You're
especially
right.
especially
You're right.
especially if it's real. I mean, we know there's a lot of bootleg and great copies and things of that nature, but I'm talking a real authentic Rolex, no matter what it is, what model it is, what it's made out of. Nobody's looking at Rolex and sneezing on like, oh man, that's whack. That's you're
Not
never
at
you're not
all.
gonna hear that. Anybody who says that is just a hater, and they better have something that's worth or cost a lot more to even utter those words. You know what I'm saying? So, but I say that to say like it's just things that I just started really like researching and getting into it. The more I got into the whole trust dynamic and ecosystem.
Yeah. Like about that, right? You talked about getting into like helping people build trust. So that also was intriguing to me too, because it's like, how'd you get into that? Like, do you have to be a lawyer, or is there a special certification you have to do to be able to help people set up their trust? Like, that's an
I would
interesting
say
business
like,
model.
well, let me start with how I got into it. Number one, I got into it by getting into the room, right? So I gained access to a room through one of my relatives that was a part of a financial group, and I had got access to the room, and I listened to the information that was being spoken about, and it intrigued me. And when I realized the power and the potential, how this information could change my life, I was like, I wish I had this information 10, 15 years earlier with, my own personal circumstances and things that I was going through. Because it would have made a significant, impact and difference. So that's how the ball got started with that regard. So um, I ended up, getting the finances together to actually, purchase a family trust that I needed, and
Hmm.
then and then continue to get, another one, a business trust and all that. And since that's the direction, everything that I'm moving in, because I understand the power of it. So the more that I started operating like this and understanding and where I come from, coming from, a civil service background, and knowing all the struggles and all the people that I worked with and lived with over the years and going through the trenches literally. And it's like in 20 years of service, no, I don't know one person that I worked with them that even mentioned this or knew about it or spoke about it. We'll talk about everything under the sun, but in all the interactions that I had with hundreds of thousands of people in New York City, it's not like we're in some small town.
Right.
Nobody ever spoke about this to me. Nobody ever told me about this. So I said, you know what? I'm getting this information. I'm researching. I'm learning, um, doing my due diligence. And I said, now that I'm retired and I have more time to dedicate to it and all this stuff, and I have built good relationships with people, um, I need to bring this information back. I need to, I need to, I need to help the 25-year-old version of myself that's on the job now. The 30-year-old that version of myself that's on the job that didn't have this type of information, because all I can do is bring the information. You can't strong arm nobody into actually executing, and pulling the trigger for whatever they feel their future, their financial future, their family's projection of, success or whatever they want. But I can do my part since I have the knowledge, since I have the relationships, since I have the information, and I'm also living what I'm preaching, that
Mm-hmm.
I can bring that to someone, a group, what have you, especially, where I come from. And now it's up to them to make it work, so that I feel like, so I like kind of like self proclaim myself as like a liaison, so I'll be the bridge. I have no problem connecting the dots, being the middleman, and connecting the people that are in the know with the people that don't know. And that's how I kind of like, made my own niche for myself, and that's what I'm trying to do, because the information's out there. um but like we've often hear, if you want to hide something from somebody, put it in a book.
Right.
you know Put it in a book, and not that this information is exactly in a book, but there is plenty of it in the book. Like one book, like we talk about things that are boring. How many people can you honestly say read IRS codes? How many people can you say read or read the Constitution? Like, there's a lot of people, no matter, how many books they read, where they graduated, unless they specifically in a legal field or a CPA or something along those lines, that are dealing, that they know certain things. The average person is not doing none of that. You have CPAs, you have attorneys that even they might be specific, or they, their education, their studies, their practice is specifically tailored to one segment of law, one segment of accounting. So if they don't have the experience of dealing with trusts, they don't have it. They're like, every doctor is not the same. You got doctors that make their living just on orthoscopic stuff. You got pediatricians. Pediatrician is not going to be called in to fill in to do a brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
surgeons, you have doctors, so it can be that technical if you don't know what you don't know. Even though they have the MD title or they have all this stuff, like that's just the way it is. An anesthesiologist is not going to prescribe medicine to a kid and see him on
Right.
a visit. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. They specifically deal with what they deal with. And that's the law. That's how to think about, how many laws we have. Think about how many IRS codes we have. So if you're not familiar with something, you're not familiar. And that's just how it works. That's just part of life, and that's just part of the game.
That it's interesting that you say that, because now it's like it's time to get familiar, at least know that this exists. That's my perception of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, So now we know that a trust is a will on steroids. Got the Mexican supplements in them.
I don't know what supplements, but they got something. You know what I'm saying? I
That's
could give you. We got nothing but examples. You know, a will is Bruce Banner, and the trust is the Hulk. Like, there's a difference.
okay. That's a good one.
Who you want to go? Who do you want to fight? Who do you want to fight for you? You want Bruce Banner or you want the Hulk? You got
That's
you got beef. You got a judgment. You know, you going through. You could go through divorce. You could go through. You know, you got an issue with a business partner, whatever. Like, who do you want on your side? You want the Hulk or you want Bruce Banner?
that's a no brainer there.
You
That's
know,
definitely a
and
no
Bruce and
brainer.
Bruce Banner is a doctor.
Right. All right.
But who
But
who do you want when
you,
when when it hits the fan? Who do you really want
yeah, you definitely want Hulk smash. You definitely
all
want
day,
Hulk smash. My son would have
all
loved to
day?
hear that. Oh man, but so like all right, so let's talk about some of the can we talk about some of the advantages of forming a trust?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I would say off the bat, right? One of the major advantages is your privacy, right?
Uh,
One of the major advantages in having the trust that, you know, my company sets up and all that is that you're going to lower your tax liability. You're going to have your anonymity. You know, you're going to have your privacy. Um, you're going to be able to be exempt from certain things, which again lowers your tax liability. Like, let me give you an example of the power of a trust that is set up the way we set things up, right? Um, for example, you have someone that's a homeowner, right? And they're nearing their retirement, kids are off to college, got married, whatever. And they're like, okay, you know, a lot of New Yorkers tend to retire and, you know, they sell their property no matter where they live, and they tend to retire in Florida,
mhm,
for example, right? They're tired of all the four seasons. They want the warmer weather. They're getting older, blah, blah, blah. Now, when they go to sell their property, they get hit with capital gains tax. So if you have your home, which is a lot of people's number one asset, and you have it properly documented and transferred into the family trust, you're exempt from capital gains tax. That's huge.
that's
That's
huge.
that's huge. That's huge. Now let's say, you know, that's one real life example. Here's another real life example. We know that relationships, marriages, they don't all succeed. Now unfortunately, divorce happens more frequently. Now you have a house. But if that house, and you're going through divorce, if that house that both you and your partner reside in, and it's in the family trust name, no court has jurisdiction to be like, you have to leave. You have to leave this house because the court says so. Now we're
All right.
talking about, everything being amicable, not a domestic violence or anything. I'm saying if you have two people that, they just hit the point of the road where, you know what, I want to split, and you have this provision already set up, now you got to be amicable on top of that. You know what I mean? Because if there's no violence, there's no beef, I don't have to leave the house. You don't have to leave the house per se. You know what I mean? So whatever we're gonna do with this property, we're gonna settle it real civil, which changes the way you deal with people. Because what people often really find out is that marriage is business. Marriage is another contract. You sign a contract with this person. You get a marriage license.
Mm.
You understand? There's provisions in being married, and there's consequences when there's an infraction upon that license and that marriage contract. So you got to think when you start thinking about it in that mindset. Marriage is business. Man, people find out it's business because someone said to me, it says, when you get a divorce, that's a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You get That's what a divorce really is. It's another form of a lawsuit. You're getting sued for this. When you hear people saying, I could take you for this, for that, I want this, they're suing you. They not just gonna. It's not you don't look at it in that regards that we're breaking up. It's like why does she or he want this, this, and that? You're getting sued because I know you have this and this is connected to your name. So more of a reason why you would want to have a trust set up before you get married, or what depend. That would be my advice because the minute you remove yourself from an asset, from a business, bless you, or
Mm.
what have you, you can't be connected to it. You cannot take what I don't own. Now I have the control. That's the power of it. One of the famous families and of all time in American society, the Rockefellers, one of their family members said, own nothing but control everything. This is how they operated and continue to.
Right.
So if I don't own anything, you can't take anything. And it's legit. This is not just hiding it and putting it in my grandma's name or things of that nature. This is legit. When you have the power of the Constitution, you have the power of the law, the IRS code, because you created or you had a trust created that now you is the owner of these assets and business and things, life insurance policies and all of these things. Little old me, you really can't get nothing from me. I don't have nothing for you I don't have nothing to give you. That's the power of it. If you have prominent families that operate like this for a long time and they're still in power, don't get it twisted. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have to like study people and see what they're doing. What have they done that has been successful? Because when I tell you it's really estate planning, it's life planning. There's a million things. How many people can identify and say, how many people, everybody that has a family, you have people in your family that are doing good, and you have people that are doing bad. You have people that they may be spiritual and people that may be diabolical. You have people that don't drink, people that are alcoholics, people that are in and out of prison. You have people that are on drugs, people that have all different habits. You don't think that families that come from millions and millions of dollars have these same issues? That they didn't
Right.
have kids or grandkids that were drug addicts, they were abusive, they were in and out of prison, that they would have messed up the money? Of course they would have messed up the money. But that's the power of having a trust set up. When you hear boards of trustees, that means they created a central government body that has to have a majority vote on financial and business matters. And that's really what you got to think about. You got to run your family, your household like the government. You got to have structure. You got to have checks and balances. And like what you mentioned earlier, right? Yeah, this is not the sexy stuff. People always want to hear the flash and I'm gonna tell you how to make 100,000 in business credit. I'm gonna do this, and this is what gets clicks and clickbait and all of this stuff. People love the offensive stuff, the flashy stuff, the home runs, but defense is what wins championships. If
Say
you're
it again.
Defense is what wins championships. If you win the stock market, right, all the prominent investors, no matter what they're trading, what do you always hear a successful trader say? Their risk management. You know when to set your alarm for your stop loss. A trust is the ultimate type of style, is the ultimate risk management. If you have accumulated funds, money, business, assets, you need, if you don't have nothing like what I'm talking about and what we set up in place, you have zero risk management. That means you could lose everything you built up. You don't have a checks and balance system in place. You made $1 million one day, you could lose 1.5 the next day. You had no provisions. Like things like this can happen. It has happened throughout the course of time. You get that one relative that is like, okay, as soon as this person died, now I'm in charge. I'm taking that money. I fell in love. I'm going on a shopping spree. I want to rent a private jet and all this money that you could have accumulated gone. And they don't even got to be people with money. You got people with less than. It don't matter what it is. The principle is the same. Because it's whether, don't matter if you come from money or you have a little bit of money. The principle is the same. In America, if you have a family that they had one house, the grandparents died, they had multiple kids, and they had a big property, and you have siblings that haven't seen each other for years, but they show up at the wedding, or they show up because, I mean, I'm sorry, not the wedding, at the funeral, because all they want to talk about is what we're going to do with this house
Mm-hmm.
that I grew up in, that, I wasn't the favorite child, or, you know, they only worried about you, but I'm the oldest, or I'm the second oldest, and I want to sell this house because I need money. The parents ain't have life insurance. They have none of these things. But the list is endless. What happens, and that's across the board. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Spanish, Asian. That's just what happens. You know, death, death, unfortunately, brings out a lot of ugliness in families, and you see people get desperate. You see people, they want money because that's what they come around, that's what they smell. If there's something that can be had, the same thing with the will. Except now with a will, right? Now you got to go to court. You got to have the attorney read whatever was in that will. You could have somebody that can challenge it. Be like, nah, that's not the real will. They wrote that yesterday. Now we're gonna investigate that claim. It could
Mm.
be, it can be attacked in that manner. But when you have a trust set up that has the provisions, the correct provisions, they can't be challenged. The court has no jurisdiction. What's in there is in there, and that's it.
Okay. So when you say provisions, what do you mean by provisions? Can you
Provisions that I'm talking about, right, are legal provisions, and they're like basically they're separate, can be looked at as the separate trust, but when you combine them, like I say, they form Voltron. So there's five key provisions in the type of trust that my company sets up. So number one is irrevocable, non-grantor, spendthrift, discretionary, and complex. Those are provisions,
okay?
and they're legal provisions. And when you combine that, that gives you maximum power, maximum control of your life, you know,
Yeah.
in reality. It gives you maximum control because you these are legal provisions, so you're already backed up by the law. And now you combine these things that are going to work for you, work for the benefit of your beneficiaries, and you have the control. You have a fiduciary responsibility to manage everything that this trust controls for the beneficiaries. You can't do that with just any type of trust. You understand? That's how I want to, I'm not saying that's how I just want to break it down in like real layman simple terms. It's not happening. You can't do certain things. Same way, like we'll go back to the airplane. In economy, you can only move your seat 3-4 inches back. In first class on an international flight, you can lay all the way down. Some have showers. You have private rooms.
Right.
That's what we're talking. The difference here is there's levels to it. There's levels to it. You know what I mean? You get upset when you're in economy and the person in front of you puts their seat back. You're like, oh man, I just opened up my ginger ale. Now I got to wash this table. You know what I mean? Where you don't have those issues when you have the provisions in first class, international. You got more than enough room. You ain't worried about nothing. They know your name. They come in with a hot towel to wipe your hand. You know what I mean? You're eating swordfish. You get
That's a
champagne.
good analogy.
You get champagne when you just walk in. It's like they know your name. They calling you by your first name. Here's a hand towel. You're doing this, that. You want anything? They're making sure you good. It's A1 service. When you're in the back of the plane, it's lower tier service. It's not the same.
That's a very good analogy. That's a very good analogy. Forgive me, y'all. I got family over y'all in the living room. But
That's all good. That's real life.
hey, and that's what this show is about. It's about real life, and what you saying is real life, and we need to pay attention and tap into that to help change your life. You know,
Absolutely.
and protect your life. So, like, okay, so we talked about provisions. So, like, give me an example of some things that you could put into a trust.
Like we already discussed your home,
Hmm.
um, your business. I would say, even for many people that may be listening, not everybody has a business. So I don't want to make it seem like it's your business. Not everybody may be a homeowner, but I can tell you one thing that everybody does have. They have a life. So if you have a life and you're listening, that means you're alive. That means you should have life insurance. So now, whether you're single, married, whatever the case may be, have children, not children, if you have family, whether direct your own family, extended family, close friends that regard as family, everybody's situation is different. But what I'm getting at is that you have a life insurance policy. You have the trust. You make a strategy. One strategy is you want to have the beneficiary of your life insurance policy be that family trust. Like this was actually a method that the Rockefeller family, one of their methods on building wealth. Every time a family member was born, they put a life insurance policy on that member. See, and think about it. If you've done this for years and years and years, because one thing we know, we're born, we have a birthday and a death day. So, but we don't know when our death day is. But we do know, right? If we know this ahead of time, no matter how it happens, whether it's what we call untimely, a tragedy, or whatever, we know that's going to happen. So it only makes sense that you have a life insurance that when that day comes, I'm leaving something for my family. So whether that's a whole life insurance policy, which is what's strongly recommended, but everybody's financial situation is different. No matter what it is, whether it's term, whatever it is, right? You discuss that with the life insurance people. But what I'm saying to you is that you put that beneficiary as your family trust. So you're building the pot for your family, for your members. The people they're still around is the people that are actually gonna mourn you, whether you have children or not. Think about it. How many times you heard cases where somebody wealthy passed away, they left their fortune to a cat, a bird, a dog, right?
What?
And
That's
people are
great.
like, how could that be? I always said that. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. But here's what I never thought of. What they don't tell you, because they don't have to disclose anything, is that they also name somebody, a caretaker, that could be a friend, a relative, a wife, a mistress, whatever,
Mm.
to take care of such pet, take care of that animal. So that person gets the benefit of caring for this particular bird, ferret, dog, whatever it is. They get to live in the penthouse. They get to live in the mansion. They get to drive the Bentley. You know what I'm saying? And
That's
to
just crazy.
take them to the vet.
That's dope.
This is just how it works. People don't think about that. So it's not so while they left it to the door. And now think about this. This is what's even crazy in the era that we live in. You think the person that cares for that is gonna really claim or make a public declaration that that pet died?
No, why would I?
We're in the age of cloning. You could clone a pet. We could just get a new one and
Right.
say this is such and such. We could keep
Yeah.
it going. We could have that pet or animal mate. Now we got to
Mm.
take care of their children. These are just strategies. I'm freestyling this, but I'm just telling you this is what goes on.
Man, hold on.
Make no mistake about it.
That's crazy. Hold on, my phone about to die. Let me grab my charger. Hold on. Man, I didn't even think of that. Hold on. I'll be back, family. Hold on.
Okay.
Um, all right. All right, cool. Like, hold on. We
Make
chopping it.
sure you plug in. We might have to do a part two, my brother.
We definitely have to. I
We're gonna have
realize
to do
that.
a part two because like I said, it's heavy. It's heavy and it's a lot to unpack. I got like about 10 more minutes,
Okay,
so I gotta
that's
know.
perfect actually.
So I definitely know we gotta unpack. I wish we could interact with people, but no. But I hear you. I mean, but I just want you to think about that. You know what I mean? Like that's something that we don't think about.
Yeah.
And that especially the wealthy, because if you're not wealthy, you just like everybody thinks that the transfer of wealth is just real simple, but it's not. You got to have the right things in place. And when you think about this, right? Let's say for all my people that readers, let's say a lot of people that are read the Bible or Christians, whatever religion or faith into, like in the book of Proverbs, 13, chapter 13, verse 22, you always hear a verse that gets paraphrased. Someone that's like, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, right? How does that
Right.
happen though? Now this is something that's been written thousands of years ago.
Right.
Long
That's
time, long time. This is just part of provision, and just think about what those words are saying. So the point that I'm trying to bring home is, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you have, is our job is, and I'm going to talk to people like men, fathers, husbands, like it's our job to make sure that our next generation, our children, our offspring are better off than we were. Like if everybody follows that progression, we're gonna keep rising to the top. You know what I mean? So that's something that was written a very long time ago. Whether you are a Christian, non-Christian, atheist, whatever, there's wisdom in those words, period. I'm not even getting into the religious part of it. I am just saying it's a proverb. It's part of a proverb. So and you want to make provision. That's the only way you're gonna succeed. So now we're talking about having the tool, the right type of tool that's gonna assist you in achieving that outcome. Not just talking about it, no matter how great and a relationship you may have with your best friend, your cousin, and like, oh, if something happens to me, my cousin's gonna take care of it, or that's my best friend. She's gonna do this. She's gonna look out for my kids. That doesn't work. That doesn't work in court. That doesn't work when there's spousal disputes. That doesn't work. None of that. No, nobody's trying to hear that. Nobody's trying to hear that. Grandma promised me the house.
Right.
Like what? Nobody wants to hear that. Where is it written? Where is it written? Where is it document that's validated, that's notarized, that's a real contract that shows this provision is actually valid? These are the
Document.
things you got to think about. You can't just talk about it. People got to know where your stuff is. People got to know. There's so much. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack. But if you get into it and really start analyzing your life, where you are and where you want to be, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. To me, there's no alternative. There's no alternative. I know people that are single, they don't have kids, they have money and this and that. And even then, at a certain point, they may, they're going to look for people or organizations to donate their money to or whatever they have. People will do that. I grew up in Queens, and one of my immediate neighbors was a German lady, and she left her whole, she became a widow, and she left her whole whatever money, property, everything to the another man that used to just was her caretaker.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like things happen. Like you don't know who could leave what for what, but you got to have something in place. Because one thing is guaranteed: the state that you live in, if you don't have nothing, they taking it. Now, when you hear those terms that it went to the person's estate, that key word in that phrase there is the state. The state's taking it. If you don't
Okay.
have no provision, they gonna levy fees. They're gonna do this. If you was in arrears, if you was on Medicaid's gonna put a lien on that property. If you have a property, there's a lot of things that happen. And people don't realize it till, unfortunately, when death comes into play, or divorce or things like that. When things happen that's on the unfortunate side, that's when you say to yourself, you had that, damn, I wish I would have known, or I wish I would have did this. Like you get a new car, right? When you get a new car, what do they tell you? You got to have full coverage. It's a new car. You have to have full coverage. And it's like, wow, that's a lot of money. Some people like, I don't, so maybe you shouldn't have that car, but the bank, whoever loaned you that money and made it possible, like you have full coverage because this is a new car. If it's not a
Mm.
new car anymore, then you can get away with just having liability. People like, they start micromanaging, like, oh, well, I don't want to have theft on my car or collision. I'm a good driver. I'm just gonna have liability. Then they get into a car crash and they tell them how much that bill is. They're like, damn, I wish I would have had collision.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? If you just had full coverage, you would have had full coverage. So it's like You got to think of it. That's kind of like certain people go through life. I should have had life insurance. You can't say you should have had life insurance when you no longer here. It's too late. That's why you see so many of us having GoFundMe's, having fish
Yeah.
fries, having, this made, this memorial event, this barbecue, that, because a lot of things weren't in place. So why would you want to do that if you're age of maturity, if you're a responsible adult? I'm married. Like, I don't want, God forbid, if my wife survives me, which, to be honest, I want her to survive me. So I making all my provisions for my children and my wife ahead of time. So I want things to be in place. Listen, of course your family rather have you than the money, but do you want them to struggle on top of not having you? And now, last time I checked, man, funerals run about 10,000. Coffins are expensive. Tombstones are expensive. You want them to scramble for that? You know what I mean? Like, certain things. This is things we don't think about. We were taught, a lot of people play the game Monopoly as a kid, and if you really think about it and look at it, and now you apply adult mentality to it, you can learn a lot from that game and chess. You can learn a lot. You got to just break it down and put your adult mind on, and really look at what's going on. But it's about provisions. So it's like the clues are all around us. Like I said, I gave you a biblical example.
Hmm.
We got American prominent families. You see how they work. There's a book that I read called "What Would the Rockefellers Do," which
With the
breaks down
Rockefeller.
everything with the life insurance and the trust. They break that down in that book. You can get that book on Amazon.
Who's that? Is that Garrett
Um,
Gunderson? Who
I
wrote
can't
that?
say 100%. It might be. I don't know that other than, but I know it's a paperback. It's a
Okay.
paperback, but I definitely recommend it. I
Don't
mean,
quote me on
so,
this, y'all.
but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, the message that I want to bring home, Paris, is that in our community in particular, we got to get on our job. And getting on our job isn't just making money. We're always good at making money. We're always good at creating something. I mean, we created hip hop. So look
Hmm.
what hip hop. Look what hip hop is. Look at the hip hop culture. We've created a lot of things, and that's fine. That's great. That's a blessing. It's a talent. But where we fail is passing it down. I want to be able to pass down more than my name. I want to be able to pass down, you know, my knowledge, my
Hmm.
experiences. This is why it's important to keep journals, keep records, tell stories. That's the importance of family reunions and gatherings. Think about the history of mankind and other civilizations where you will have a lot of respect for the elders.
Hmm.
Where they're sitting down in a circle, and you respect elderly people and their knowledge and their wisdom. In the streets, you respect the OG. You know, that's the OG. Whether he was in or out of jail, he's alive and had a story. He went through some things, so he got some wisdom to impart. You know what I mean? And in every culture, for the most part, there's a high respect level for seniority and experience. So we have to recognize that, and we have to have that translate into our families. In an age where we're being emasculated, in an age where information is clouded, where, you know what I'm saying? We're in the
Yeah.
age of, no other group of people have women being so proud to say that they're independent. Nobody else says that. There's never gonna. I've never seen it. I don't see
Uh,
no other culture talking about their female artists, no matter what genre of music, talking about I'm independent. It don't happen. It don't
I,
happen.
I never even
There,
thought
that's
about
that's
it
a
like
whole
that.
that's a whole
Oh, we lost him. We lost him, ladies and gentlemen. Hey Tracy, how you doing? But yeah, we lost him. Okay, he's back.
Let me get my. I don't know if my headphones died. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You went out for a second. You
Let
know,
me.
you was saying that was a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
And I looked up that book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? That is Garrett Gunderson. So What Would the Rockefellers Do by Garrett Gunderson. You get that on Amazon. I'm looking at it right now. It's a paperback, $10.
Yeah. Light, light read, inexpensive, but good knowledge. Good knowledge, good information. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm
I,
saying. Like, there's so many levels to unpack. Really think what happens. So it's like we got to really take a step back, and just understand there's a continuity in the message of leaving something for our children's children, and it's not just money. It's not. There's a lot of things, but we're talking about money. We're talking about assets. We're talking about wisdom. We're talking about experience. We're talking about just being positive, just being good stewards of what we know. I'll be the first to admit I didn't grow up being financially responsible. Financially responsible didn't really exist to me. I grew up and where I come from is just about making money. That's all it was driven.
mm,
If you need more money, then you got to find something to make more money. So you make more money so you can spend more money. But nobody's teaching you the defense. Nobody's saying make this money and then invest this money, save this money, but have this legal provision in place that when you die, this gets transferred, you can be exempt from this. And nobody's talking about that. Because even people that save money, what good is you saving money if the dollar's depreciating every day and you just sitting on the mattress? It's not going nowhere. It's not doing. Nobody knows where you buried it. Okay, so you saved money, great. But what is it doing for you? Money is supposed to be moving. It's supposed. That's why it's called currency. It's a current, electric current,
just
water
move.
current. It's got to move. You got to put it from here to here and here, and make all the wealthy people. Their money ain't just become wealthy because they just saved it. You got to think. You got to look at the information that's out there. People making money whether things go up. People making money whether things go down. So you got to educate yourself.
We definitely got to have a part two. We definitely got to have a part two. I like to put it out there a little bit more. You know, we had a few people drop in. You know what I'm saying? I got the chat going. I do want to like have us a part two and see if we can get the community more involved so we can talk more about it. But first, before I land the plane here, um, if someone wants to get more information on building the trust, how can they do that with you?
Okay, yeah, they could tap in. They can tap in on. I'll give you my social. I could put it in the chat too, but we'll say it for the audience. So DAS underscore fidelity. That's FIDELITY on Instagram, and the website link is there on the Instagram, but the website is DAS dash fidelity.com. And you can email contact at das dash fidelity.com. But I'm gonna put it um, in the chat as well. Put that in.
And also, I would like to add this episode is sponsored by Mount Sinai Olive Oil. You know, this is the purest
Absolutely.
olive oil in the market. It is imported from olives from Egypt, and it is also black owned. I use it every day. My family use it. We are a Mount Sinai family, and this episode is sponsored by Mount Sinai Olive Oil. Mount
Uh-huh.
Sinai Olive Oil.com. Get you a single bottle or get you a subscription today. And you can also follow them on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. TikTok.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So um I'm I don't want to keep you. I know you only had 10 extra minutes left, but I think we should set up a part two so we can continue this
Absolutely.
conversation.
We'll set it up. I mean, let's try to have something as well where um maybe we could get like email questions or live questions, anything from the audience or people that are listening in or whatever, so we could like interact. But
Oh yeah.
overall, we'll just say that listen, the bottom line is that we have access to information now. Make your book your consultation so you can get more in depth, because even on such platforms that we're on now, people don't want this information out there, and you got to understand that. People do not want People don't want this information out there for many reasons. So you got to understand what we're saying and act accordingly, and operate the way you need to operate, because it's a game changer. It's definitely a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
We grew up from kids. The best magicians, they're never going to reveal their secrets. There's a reason.
Exactly.
So the best people that are prominent with their money, their businesses, how to use the law for their benefit, they're not going to reveal that. They don't want to reveal that. So you gotta understand that all of that is the same thing. It's just different arenas, but the mentality, the focus, the information is all the same. The people that are in the know want to remain in the know. That's just how it works. That's life. So book your
And
consultation. This
and
great episode of the Entrepreneur Kickback. We're gonna definitely come back because there's a lot. Like I said, there's so many levels. There's so many forks in the road where you can go when you start unpacking stuff. You can't fit it all in one episode. It's really like a round table, like a
yeah, we might do that. You know what I'm saying? We
a
might do
lot
that, and I'm thinking,
of information.
yeah. But I appreciate you, good brother, coming back on and kicking back with us. Our what I'm saying, doing this live show, which I think we could revisit that for part two as well, so we can get the community involved. They can ask questions. Um, we'll set that up on the back end. Um, Thank you guys for listening to the Entrepreneur Kickback. I'm Parrish Patton. Like, share, subscribe to a loved one, a friend, family member, whoever can get benefit from this information. And additionally, please book your consultation with Dasul so you can set up your own trust, however that looks like. I will also leave links to connect with him in the show notes. So, what I'm saying, you can get right to it, and book your consultation. Figure out where you stand and what you need to do to move forward. You know what I'm saying? The consultation is free. It doesn't take much to get the information that you need to help you and your family. So again, I'd like to thank you guys for listening. This is the Entrepreneur Kickback. Dasul, please stay on the line while the video renders. But I'd like to thank you guys for listening. This is Entrepreneur Kickback with Dasul Andrews yet again, and there will be another time. We out.